Hey everyone, Carmel Kemp here, and this week on Creating Life Consciously, we have an amazing and exciting guest for you today, and I'm thrilled to dive in. Marina Ejova connects badass female entrepreneurs to their awakened yoni and embodiment to activate their heart-centered vision and manifest their pinch me reality. Marina invites you to embody what you want through the lens of feminine pleasure. She supports your goals and dreams by showing you how to turn your past into an ally and how to liberate yourself from the inside out. You are able to build your life and business that will bring you joy and fulfillment. Marina's soul has been embodying ancient wisdom and medicine for lifetimes, and she wants to guide you on how to remember yours. Marina was fortunate to start learning and teaching first personal development, spirituality, and feminine arts for the last 20 years. When we are able to use our full potential, we truly become the powerful creators of all of our lives. If you can see it, you can create it. Trust that all the pieces are falling together and playing in your favor. Take your pleasure seriously. Whoa. Okay. All right. Right? Wow. Well, first of all, Marina, thank you so much for doing this and for being here and sharing your beautiful wisdom, experience, knowledge, and all that you are with me, this self, and our wonderful guests that are listening. Let's start off and just sort of dive in and give our listeners a little bit of background on Marina and kind of how you got here.
Wow. Well, thank you for having me here. Such a joy to be here with you as our souls have been dancing through time. And as you were reading this bio, there are parts of it that I'm like, yeah, I've come a long way. There are parts where I'm like, I don't even recognize, I don't even remember who I was, when I started on my personal journey, and where I'm at now, it feels like a pinch me reality. So I don't really know where to start because it feels so old. It feels like we're collapsing time. We're moving so quickly right now. And, but I want to be relatable to people and just be like, yeah, I was, that girl who was on my mom's couch at some point. I had a baby, a messy divorce, and then I ended up on my mom's couch with a 2-year-old. And I remember waking up on that couch and I'm like, she's running, my daughter is running around. And I'm like, how the F did I get here? I've been teaching yoga, meditation. I got to have some good karma, have great mentors. What just happened? So I was in shambles to pick myself up again and rebuild from there. So that's where the phrase comes in, trusting that everything is falling into place, where all the pieces sometimes feel like they're falling apart, but they're actually falling into the right place, into the right alignment for us to wake up again, knock on that door of the heart and be like, who am I again? What do I desire? So that was like a decade ago of that other moment of collapse and, being humbled by life, on my knees praying to what? Now what? So I've come a long way, I guess. But I feel like I always was blessed to have mentorship, sense of spirit and spirituality in my life. That's where the Toltec school actually came into my life. While I was on my mom's couch, I was able to meet, some of my Toltec mentors and really dive into the wisdom school, into the mystery school of the heart of the hearts and be like, whoa, like all these little pieces of life are, tangible and they're painful sometimes, but there's something greater. That's where I got to tap into that inner courage, to get up, to trust in myself again and to love even that broken version of me and to continue walking.
Same story manifests in different ways, though.
Mm-hmm.
Even for myself, 10, 11 years ago, I was on my mother's couch. because she was called. I was in the corner of my room in a little puddle, going that, I either have to get up or jump off the cliff. And there's something inside us. There's an intelligence here that we can tap into that allows us to and pushes us forward and gives us that strength and courage to recreate. And we're constantly recreating, I think,
Yeah.
We share a connection also, through the Toltecs and also through Sadhguru that we were just talking about. And he will often say that, when you're everything falls apart and everything is in a shambles, that we feel that it's a great tragedy, when in fact it's a superior and great opportunity for us to do something different and something more. And it takes courage and creativity, and we can create anything that we absolutely want and desire.
Mm-hmm.
And you are a prime example of that in what you've created over the last 10 years. A child, a business, a new identity and personality. So, what's that journey in creating that
Mm-hmm.
persona, identity, that self?
Yeah. From the greater perspective, I think that's what's really helpful, is to zoom out and have the spiritual teachings, the understanding that we're not just this human flesh here. We're not just this personality suit of right or wrong. I like this, I don't like this kind of thing. And have a greater perspective on who am I from the spirit realm. Who am I from, the body, the animal self, which we can refer to as the body can suffer, the mind can suffer sometimes from the experiences. But that spiritual aspect is so important to remember, that from the greater perspective of my soul is growing. Wow, I can just see that I am looking for ways to find courage, to find that faith in my life again, to find something that's greater than this human self, obviously. So it really tapped me into that deeper sense of faith and trusting life from a greater perspective, from the greater cosmos of life. It's oh, that's how soul grows, when we are uncomfortable, when we thought we knew, and everything we knew, we were out of ideas, we're out of our tools. Good luck now. And that's where we're humbled, and we are open up to spirit, to God, to source, and we're what else is out there? We're at that place of mercy, of grace, and also of being really open, because there's nothing else to lose. We've lost it all. So there's nothing else left. So we are completely open and questing into that deeper realms of faith. So I think that was it for me. When I was absolutely run out of all of my ideas, all of my tools, and humbled by what else is there. And that's what grace came through, spirit came through. And I was wow, there is magic. There is something else here that's greater than me, that's orchestrating all of that. Because guess what? After that, couch incident with my mom, I was there for a couple of months. Then I got up and started, trying to get an apartment and all. And, somebody granted me a month free of rent. A friend of mine out of nowhere, she's been my yoga student for a couple of years. And out of nowhere, she calls me and she goes, "Hey, I need an assistant to help me, work this new real estate project downtown. Are you game to assist me?" And I'm yeah, sure. I'll just dress up, put some makeup on, and, get back into life again. So I saw how this karma was playing out. The same person who I've assisted on her journey is now assisting me. And then even my credit cards or something, all my spiritual journeys and travels were covered on my points on visas. And I was that's just you can't explain some of that stuff. The miracles, the grace that started pouring into my life, you couldn't explain that in this human realm. So being open to magic and miracles in that sense, that there's a greater mystery orchestrating and just weaving through all of that. And I started trusting that a little more and a little more and taking these baby steps.
Yeah. It's the hardest part, sometimes is just getting out of our own way. Trust, we learn to distrust so. And it's not a conspiracy theory. It's just, it's just what happens. The subconscious is a sponge. It doesn't differentiate between what is real and imagined. And so when the imagination goes one way instead of in a creative way, then, we just absorb everything without either saying consciously yes or consciously no. And that starts playing out in the karma and the patterns and the habits and the tendencies and through the 3D lens, which is, 3D consciousness in my experience it's fear-based, it's law-based, it's rule-based, it's survival-based. Mm-hmm. And I was stuck in that for so long. And when you can start learning how to trust little bit by little bit and magical and mysterious things that the mind just can't explain start to happen, then it teaches the mind to kind of come along a little bit and go, okay, well, what's next? What is possible? Mm-hmm. What can we do here? Right? And then we can start to create consciously and tapping into, for me, into different dimensions of consciousness. The 3D noise doesn't play out as much because we can kind of supersede that. The definition of polarity and duality from higher levels of consciousness and create from that space. Yeah. It's incredibly difficult to create from a fear-based place. It's impossible, actually, and in my experience anyway. And that's all I can ever talk about is my own experience within that.
Well, and I can relate to that absolutely, that we are almost like trained in our culture, in our society, to perceive the world from this like three-dimensional reality. And it almost like we're like, when we have this, then I'll be happy and then I'll be radiating. Or so what we are taught is the complete reverse of how it works on the other realm of the multidimensional realm. And it actually takes some time for us to see results or see something magical blossom in a three-dimensional reality. When it starts from inside out and not the other way around. We're taught that when you go to school, you'll get a good job, and then you'll meet that person of your dreams, and then you'll live there happy ever after. Well, BS. It doesn't always happen like that. We know that, And over, we try that formula, and it's like it's been glorified, but it doesn't work. It's just like we see it collapses left and right now. It's like all over the place. It's not working. It doesn't work for the body, even for our health, for relationship. It's like when we start investing in ourselves first, believing that we are that, beloved within, like we are that magical human, then the rest of life starts to resonate in the same way because our thoughts are aligned with that. Our actions are aligned with that. And of course, like the outer reality is starting to mirror that because, it's everything. So it's not just this like magical secret sauce that is there, but it's just that we've been taught this formula backwards a little bit. And right now that's like with the work that I do myself and with the women that I work with, it's like, really it takes a lot of rewiring of that old program, of really rewiring and trusting that the work starts from inside out, vibrating that higher essence, trusting that, knowing that, and then everything else comes out on the 3D realm. And it takes time. And sometimes we're not patient enough to be dedicated to that, new intention, new way, new awareness. Because again, in this realm, we're so taught to be like, oh, it's so quick fix. Everything is like, like social media has this portrays that everything's got to happen overnight, 24-hour deliveries, like Amazon style. Everything has to manifest very, very quickly. You got to be a millionaire overnight, Just like, so the perception out there again is false that we're buying into. So trusting that it takes time, and like we don't have to give up on our dreams and our intentions, that it will happen as long as we keep our attention in that direction, aligning our energy, our thoughts, our whole beingness with that, what we are seeking, what we're aligning with. And it does manifest. It does, you know?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I think that the trust, faith, the surrender, devotion, you know, it's the human mind wants to constantly change directions. And when we do that, we're giving spirit and the cosmos mixed messages, right? And in that, it's also a resistance for me to receive, right? And if we can't be willing to just simply receive and kind of, you know, we were talking a little bit earlier, get out of our own way and trust and receive the wisdom, receive the guidance, the inspiration to create. And, you know, from what I've learned through medicine and through my guru and Devi and through the divine feminine, is how important it is to learn how to receive. You know, divine feminine and masculine in balance, they're both there, but none really exists. But the toughest part I found for most of the people that I work with is learning how to receive. And that holds true, unfortunately, for a lot of women. And you know, in some cases, we can be better at it because we've been taught a little bit more how to nurture and do that and to receive. And I think it's really important now more so than, I mean, it's always been important. I don't want to, comparison is the thief of joy. So, you know, I mean, you know, there's a lot of women that are now becoming conquerors, which is much more masculine energy. And so to bring that back into balance within the self and within humanity, I think is really super key. And this is a lot of what you're bringing to the table with Embodied Feminine, in bringing that and instilling that back in women and the women that you work with. And I think that is super important. So can you talk a little bit about your work with Embodied Feminine and what that is for you?
Yeah. Well, again, I've been teaching yoga and meditation. I've been in that world for, you know, I started when I was 17. Again, I started from my first breakup. A boy broke up with me. So I started seeking peace. And then I became a yoga teacher at 23 and reached states of samadhi and was, you know, coaching with landmark education. And then it was like a mix of that, like personal development, mindset, master your mindset, and spirituality. So I had that for a good decade until, like, you know, another realm of, like, you know, I went into that quest of what is next, you know? And I went into a vision quest in Sedona, Arizona, and I stayed there for 4 days and 4 nights questing for what is the next phase of my life. Because I mean, I've reached states of enlightenment and touched spirituality in a greater sense. So I was like, what else is out there? Like, how far out can we go? And the message I received was like, girl, it's time to descend actually into the body. And I rolled my eyes up like I was not a happy camper to hear that message, because to me it was so shallow. All my life I was striving to go upwards into heaven, into spirit realms. And all of a sudden the message I get is like, you're going to go back into this body. You're going to study Tantra and sexuality, and you're going to learn how to really embody all the spiritual knowledge that you have already touched and tasted, and live it through every cell of your body. So talking about the receptive feminine, it's like I started to actually feel somatically, where is it that I was still closed? My heart, my womb, my yoni. I've learned to manipulate a lot of my relationships early on in my life. So that pattern was like so obvious and in my face. Was I really in authentic relationships that are like sacred sexuality, where you're open and you're in communion on every level, every chakra, you're actually open to receive and to give equally. And I started really embodying that like more and more on every cell of my body, every level, from heart to the yoni. So the rest of my work has been like, it's like that hourglass has been like, whoop, we went up and now we're going back into the body. So what I'm learning is, and again, with like shamanism, we would do a lot of shadow work in there. We're digging and peeling off the layers of shadow. Where are we holding back? Where am I still, hiding from my own self? And I learned through Tantra and sexuality that pleasure is like that, the pendulum that is equal. I will also allow an equal amount of pleasure and sensation into my body as the body can permit. As I have like opened up through the shadow and the healing, it just opens up through that other side of how playful am I? How much can I receive? How much can I play? How generous am I with giving and receiving? So it's been a huge work, and I don't think I'll ever see the end of this, of embodying all of that, because the word embodiment goes on so many levels: embodying sexuality, embodying financial wisdom as well, embodying our worth, our work in the world, embodying, we can embody so much, right? So that's the work that I do right now, is using all these tools of, mindset and setting dreams and a new intention is very important. And there's that, self-talk, and then the being supported by faith, by spirit, like trusting that, communing with the elements, with nature, and then also embodying it on the somatic levels. So a lot of somatic practices are now part of also my teachings and day-to-day practices of dancing, of breath work, of moving that through our body, tapping also, so really moving that on a somatic realm and unlocking that knowledge, wisdom, and healing through the body. The body's so wise and so intelligent. I think we're just scratching the surface on what the body can actually do, because each body is also so unique. It's not like this is the recipe, like the instructions that we come here with. It's up to us to discover and understand how we operate, what makes us, open up, and what gets us moving, what gets us inspired. How do we navigate, the ups and the downs of life? So it's really up to us to find that key ingredient to, how we operate in this world with everything that's out there already. So that's the realm that is really exciting to me right now. And I find a lot of women are navigating through, and a lot of our humanity is navigating through. And that's where it's at. So
Amazing.
That's what I want to share with you. There you go.
Amazing. No, it's beautiful. I think that, play and dance and creativity is so important. I mean, it is really the divine feminine. Everything is a play of Shakti. Everything is a play of the divine feminine. There's no civilization without the divine feminine. When that energy meets Shiva, or that which is not, then everything manifests back down into, and coming to, see that, witness that, understand it, and then bring that into the body, because the only way out is in, right? Right? Going in here and using, the body as a tool. And really that's what sadhana means, is using the body as a tool and as a means to refine energy, to open up to different realms and dimensions of consciousness. I'm going to refer back to Sadhguru again here, is that, everything is a play. And to get into that and tap into that wisdom, that, he would say that the divine feminine is not a concept or a philosophy, it's an actual dimension. And when we can tap into that dimension, consciously, trustingly, lovingly, playfully, right? Which is so hard because we want to constantly control everything, right? to get to a place of just going and playing and dancing and going and trusting that, Shakti Devi is going to take care of everything. We can do that for a certain amount of time, and then this will kick in again, which is the mental body, and then we can experience that resistance. But when we're in that zone and we can tap into the divine feminine and that dimension of consciousness, then everything can be so much easier.
Right. And I'll add one more piece to that. That's what I'm witnessing right now happening in the world and within myself as well. It's being able to be in both, being able to be in this, great mystery of the feminine, of creativity, of chaos, of play, of, the mystery that comes right through us, right? And then being able to bring it back into that more reality of the masculine realm of okay, how do I share that now in my direct relationships, in my work, in my, parenting, whatever I do in this direct reality, right? And then again, so what I'm witnessing now is we are learning how to navigate both. And there is one realm that's more natural for some of us to be in, and we want to kind of maintain that status for longer. We're I want to stay here forever. Sometimes it's the feminine. I just want to sit by the river and play music all day. Well, guess what? We have these daily, responsibilities that are also requiring us to stay on top of them. So it's learning how to be and shape shift through both of them right now. And that's that personal sovereignty comes in where we are, it's that inner marriage of the sacred masculine and the sacred feminine, the Shiva Shakti. And in some of the Hindu mythologies, actually both coexisting together, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I loved about Sadhguru too, is that the first time I was so attracted to him, he was riding motorcycles. We played games in his classes. I arrived to a spiritual training, right? And I'm here we are playing Frisbee games all day. I'm come on, how useful is that? So it's really the balance of being human and being divine in both, and not judging one better than the other, but learning how to dance with it all. And sometimes it's not that 50-50, proportion. It's really not. Sometimes it's 3 steps forward and 1 steps into this. And it's learning how to not judge and how to cultivate that within oneself first versus looking for that in, a counterpart, in a mentor or in a partner somewhere else, but cultivating that in oneself.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Because if it doesn't, it has to manifest here first. My experience, it has to manifest here. And, I've learned so much through, Guruji and also through the medicine. Ayahuasca and San Pedro are tremendous teachers in terms of trust, faith, and surrender. Because the more that you can trust and release and surrender into the medicine and let it carry you, it can show you so much, in receiving. There's some projection of your own bullshit along the way, of course, that we kind of have to get through. But once we get through that, everything is here. Absolutely everything is here. Simultaneously, and to receive that wisdom. It still amazes me. I mean, I've worked in ceremony with people and drank ayahuasca close to 400 times, and it still amazes me because as much as I would say that I'm there, or this thing that I call myself, I kind of go out of the way a lot to not ever refer to this as me, because that's an untruth. It's mine. This body is mine. This mind is mine. And in those moments of working with and learning how to work in right relationship with medicine, and to receive the medicine and to open to the medicine and allow that medicine to flow through me, I am nothing without the spirit. Carmel is in the background, kind of kind of watching this whole thing take place and in many ways taking part. I haven't come up with language on how to describe it that anyone would understand it without having experienced it on that side for themselves. But the more and more, even for me as a shaman, the medicine teaches me, and the Icaros flow through, and in that way we merge together. And in order to help those that are in ceremony. Mm-hmm. And that has been one of my greatest teachers in learning how to get out of my own way. Mm-hmm. And in many ways, channel that, be a medium for that. That's really the only thing I'm good at sometimes, getting out of my own way. and receiving the grace of the medicine, receiving the grace of spirit, receiving the grace of the divine feminine and the many other dimensions that are out there that are accessible to us, that are not confined to 3D physical reality. The human body by its very nature is a boundary, right? And so in a lot of ways, we associate consciousness and divine conscious awareness as being confined to that, and it's not. It's not. It's every fucking where.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? And there's that magic in there, right? So let's talk a little bit about how you receive and have this wisdom and continue to do your work, and then convey that out to the people that come to you looking for guidance and mentorship, and how that impacts them.
Yeah. Well, grateful for plant medicine that has also assisted me so much in healing and navigating through places where I felt like I hit a limit. There's nothing else I know how to do, but medicine was able to, trickle through these such subtle realms and, heal a lot of my relationships with, my father, lineages, just liberating so much of that. So definitely grateful for that. And again, having that perspective that I am here and I've got, only a set of skills and tools that I know how to speak or to use that are still limiting. This body, this voice is a tool, and it's pretty good. And it has its limits. And what I'm noticing, even in my coaching, when I am able to tap into something that, is not prepared, is not rehearsed, no agenda sometimes, but just allowing, I can hear my intuition, I can hear spirit, the voice speak through me. And sometimes it's not always nice or pleasant. That's when I know it's it's not me who's speaking, but I'm like, can I be really frank with you? You got to cut this behavior. This is bullshit. You're I'll say things that Marina, or my personality, which loves to be the people pleaser and be that pretty girl, is this is not going to be pretty. This is not me. But that clarity, crystal clarity, just speaks through me, where I'm I don't know who was that, but it reaches people, it touches people, and I've learned how to trust that more and more, where that voice is persistent, and doing my own practice, setting my own sacred space before my coaching calls, before diving into work mode of being able to meditate a little and distinguish okay, these are the thoughts, put them aside, the unnecessary, the essential, where's my heart at? And really being in a space where I'm clear as much as possible, to my own ability. I'm a clear vessel and channel for that. And then utilizing the tools. And once the message is comes through, the essence is there, then we can back it up with some practices, with tools that are useful on the day-to-day maintenance, I would say, the little micro habits that I call them. But really having that crystal channel, what needs to come through my heart? And sometimes, when we talk about relationships, for example, I have some bigger stories that I'm ready to share with people. And no, that's not the one. the one that comes through is like something recent, or, just trusting the intuition, trusting that higher self, like that inner voice has been really a huge tool to really speak to people's hearts.
Yeah. Well, I think we're all mirrors as well. There isn't a person or a ceremony that I have worked with that there hasn't been something that has come through for this one as well.
Yeah.
Right. And we can be that mirror for each other as long as we're willing to receive. And sometimes it's uncomfortable. I mean, this is messy work sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't always have to be, but it can be messy because we're dissolving illusions. We're shattering beliefs, and that's uncomfortable sometimes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the times it is. And, looking back is what you were saying about, what is coming through. And, for me, my intention is always to work from a place of healing and always from a place of love.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't always mean rainbows and puppy dogs. It doesn't always mean that I'm going to say or do what you want me to do. It's about having the courage also to do or say what is needed, also from a place of love. But sometimes sometimes we have to be blunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sometimes we
Tough
just
love.
have to be blunt and say, here, the tough love,
Mm-hmm.
a little bit of tough love. And almost always it's like, oh, shit. Yeah, thank you. I really needed to hear that. And, for me, especially in the beginning, I was like, ooh, do I spit this out? Do I?
Yes.
Oh God. What's this person going to think of me? I'm supposed to be, whatever. And that was something that I had to learn as well.
Yeah.
And also how to deliver that message, if you will, in a way that always and constantly comes from the heart, from a place of love.
Yeah. And again, this is where we are, I think, peeling our own layers off of like, oh, that's my personality. The nice girl wants to come through. And doing the inner child work has been like really, really like big in my life and with my clients, what I see, because that little inner child, that little girl always wants to come through and be loved and be appreciated and, be acknowledged. But guess what? It's not always useful. Like, that's not what we're here to do. She can be loved and appreciated in other places. But when she gets through into our work, into the coaching of just to be loved and appreciated, like, no. Or relationships. How many times did I get into a relationship where that little girl takes the front seat to being appreciated? And it's like, no. That's not the essence of this relationship, what I'm here to do. Let me take care of all my parts and understand myself better, and then own my own, like, how do I operate that genius? And sometimes it's the spiritual side. A lot of us are trailblazing right now through being, spiritual, like being a little woo-woo, sounding crazy, or like whatever that shadow means to people. But it's like, ooh, if I tell you what I feel intuitively right now, how is that going to sound sometimes? So peeling those opinions, I think, away little by little and seeing like what resonates and what is the essence of the magic that sometimes we ourselves are afraid of our own greatness, our own potential. So, we're, like Ram Dass says, like we're all walking each other home, and the people that are drawn to work with us are perfect, mirrors for that. Cause like, if I can see back, like with people that I was working 10 years ago and who I was being 10 years ago, I'm not utilizing those principles anymore. And, we're not doing the same work at all, So as we're evolving, I think the people who are drawn to work with us are also different, and mentorship is different. There's a variety of tools that are available now. I'm actually frankly really excited where the new earth is going right now and what's becoming available to us. I think we're just, again, like, just scratching the surface of what is being human is like.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's so true that, even in my own evolution of the last 10 years. And, we become magnets and attract people for, where we're at during those changes and shifts in the evolution. And I've noticed a huge change in as well, right? Because I have as well, right? What I'm emitting and putting out there has changed, and there certainly isn't as much fear involved as there was when I first got into this, 10, 11 years ago. I mean, you've been doing this a lot longer than I have, but, I was terrified, but I knew that there was something more there. I always have. Always been super intuitive. Then I started to see spirit, and then it came knocking even louder, and then life fell apart, and I, picked myself back up again. And, even for example, in starting to work with ayahuasca after my first or second dieta down here in Peru, and she was basically, you and I, we have a history, and you're going to do this again. And I said, no. No, I don't think so. No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Who, me? No. I'll help. I'll help somehow, but what you want me to do? What? And it was 6 to 9 months when I said no, and the breadcrumbs that she kept throwing at me turned into full-on loaves of bread that would hit me upside the head. And I finally said, okay, fine.
Yeah.
I finally said, okay, I'm in. Teach me, guide me, show me the way, bring me the people, and let's do this. And, the rest, as they say, is history, but it's still evolving, and it's still morphing, and I'm still learning. I mean, I've learned a lot, but it's, we're always learning, always. Yeah. There can be thousands of Icaros to learn and to sing in ceremony and to provide healing to people. And that's still ongoing. Sometimes there'll be things that come out of my mouth that have never been taught before, either from my maestro or from the medicine, but she's teaching me in that moment. And that's just, it's the wildest, most magical thing ever. To put out and create, and so for me, this is also how we create, right? I don't know, what is that like for you? I mean, this culmination of what you've learned and experienced through yourself and embodied within yourself, and seeing your own learning curve and how you get to create consciously in that. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's like, when we hit, especially when I hear that message of like, oh no, not that one, not that one. I'm not doing that. And it's like, okay, it comes like a little nudge, like a soft nudge sometimes. And then it gets louder and louder, and it gets persistent from like every angle of my life. Like literally every person is like, you were meant to do this. And I'm like, oh, that's the problem. Yeah. So I'm realizing that, we got to really develop a relationship with fear that our faith is stronger than fear, because fear will be present at any point of our life. I mean, I noticed fear when I was dropping off my daughter into kindergarten for the first time. And she was like, I'm so scared. I'm like, yeah, baby, go girl, you can do this. There's fear. And then there was fear from my own, like, detachment from letting her go. Like, right now she'll be going on her first date this weekend, and there's fear there. There's fear about, launching a website, opening a business, saying yes to a one-way ticket somewhere, saying yes to, that person that lights you up to go on a date with. It's like let's just normalize fear. That fear is just a signal in our body that we're growing out of that comfort zone that we've been at, right? So to me, it's like, that's why I love the cyclical nature of life, the sacred spiral of like, ooh, yeah, it's a little uncomfortable. I've never been here before. I've never done this before. I've never even used a certain language before. So I am growing. And actually, like, anxiety or fear
operates in a very similar way that excitement would in our bodies. You know, it literally lights up similar neurons and muscles in our, you know, in our brain and our body that signals, ooh, I fear something, or I'm uncomfortable. There is a little bit of, I'm anxious to doing this first thing for the first time. Yeah. And also excitement is right there. And the difference is a smile. The difference is literally a shift of perception of how we're going to view this situation. Is it happening for me? Okay. Let me try this. Maybe let me prepare myself. Let me just have faith, allowing ourselves that period of, you know, exploration, trial and fail, and like doing something different, being a little wobbly, again, letting go of that perfectionism or knowing it all. Like, you know, there are a lot of things that I still don't know how to do, you know, like being in a sacred relationship, you know, the sacred sexuality is like it's scary because we surrender to that greater mystery of that life, you know. So it's a cyclical, like that's where, like, you know, before I used to teach more of that cyclical wisdom, and right now it evolved into a spiral because you're not the same, the situation is not the same, you know, your capacities are not the same. So knowing that we're always evolving and always moving, you know, and the one thing that's certain, that things are going to get uncertain at some point. So it's like, either we're going to just enjoy the ride, like throw your arms up and go and smile about it, call a friend, call a mentor, hire somebody, just get a tribe. I think community is huge. Support is huge, that, you know, in our own world, we can, especially as entrepreneurs, we can be behind our own screens and feel very like lonely in our own world, like we're drowning here and there's no help. But get out there, you know, support yourself surround yourself with people who've been on the journey, with community who love you the way you are, support you authentically, and that gets easier. I think community is a big one.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You know, it's, you know, we can learn a lot from fear. You know, is it teaching us? Is it, you know, telling us to kind of beware a little bit? You know, one of the things that I've noticed is that, even, you know, starting from my own experience, is that when I experience fear, the first thing that we want to do is push it away. And it's never going to work because we're trying to divorce a part of ourselves from ourselves. And so for me, what I've learned is to, you know, when the fear comes up, is to just acknowledge it and say, hey, fear, I know you're there. I see you there, but come here.
Yeah.
I'm try to push you away. Come here.
Yeah.
Come here and let's go do it together. Right? Because I think it fragments. I think it fragments us. And, you know, and again, from my own experience, that it didn't work. And so when I started to just sort of embrace fear and look at it from a different way and say, okay, what are you trying to teach me? I'm not going to push you away. Right? Come back into wholeness and let's go do this together. Because the ego gets a bad rap. Let's make the ego your amigo kind of thing. And, you know, come here, let's go do this together. You're not separate. The ego isn't separate from us. It's it's right here.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And it's okay. It's totally okay. You come. But come here. I'm not going to try to push you away. Yeah. Because we're fragmenting the self.
Exactly.
It's never going to work and never come back into wholeness.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of also spiritual bypassing that I saw in the yogic world. And, you know, like when that fear comes up, or that like message from, you know, the mind comes up of like, oh no, I'm not doing that. Or something doesn't work out. Your car breaks down. You got a flat tire when you're going to, you know, a retreat, or to do a medicine journey, or, you know, to enroll with a coach. And all of a sudden, like, ooh, something doesn't work out. A lot of times, you know, one of the spiritual sayings is like, oh, it wasn't meant to be. It's not aligned. You know, it's like, that's such a spiritual bypassing that very often people use to actually, you know, not confront that, you know, aspect, that fear that's actually propelling us to grow to the next level. And that's why, again, it's so important to develop our intuition and distinguish from the voice of ego and the voice of like the higher self and the intuition and the greater call of the heart. Like, what are you growing into? And understanding that, yeah, we will be uncomfortable somewhere, but where is that little self talking us out of the growth? stay in your comfort zone. Don't push it. It might get a little, especially, and then you get the tribe of your, old friends and all, the people, friends and family that are like, don't write the book. Don't travel the world. Like, Tulum or Bali is full of bugs and mosquitoes. Like, no, why would you want to do that? The Wi-Fi is wonky. You can't run, So don't take advice from the people who haven't been there. Understand your own voice of ego versus, the higher self. And that's a big one to learning how to navigate our own growth.
Yeah, for sure, And it's interesting. I've got a sort of an interesting take on, this so-called spiritual bypassing. So I'm always meant to be, or I'm right where I'm supposed to be. I kind of look at it not as a bypass, but more of a delay, because the pattern's going to keep on coming back until you bloody well figure it out. So there's nothing to bypass. If you want to bypass it your whole entire life or delay it your whole entire life, that's your choice. Who am I to say? Eventually it will catch up to you, and eventually you'll kind of figure it out.
Right.
Hopefully. Right. Yeah. But it's just, you got to do the work. It's like roll up the sleeves, get the elbow grease going, and be willing. The desire is there for most people, but then we have to develop the willingness and the courage to take the action to do something different.
Yeah.
And, and that's okay. Everybody's got their own timeline.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the courage is a bigger piece that I see, especially with entrepreneurs or like heart-centered entrepreneurs. We're so quick to jump into, how do you do this? Figure out the systems or the platforms and, the offers and the next best thing. But it's actually the inner work of the heart and the courage. That's where it's at. Because guess what? The people that I love to work with and that are doing it are okay with the messy. It's like they're ready just to jump on, and without having any fancy banners, schmammers, it's like they're ready just to hit that like button and roll, speak your mind, speak your truth, be vulnerable. How many times did I get, cameras fall on me when I'm right in the, midst of my launches? It's like, that's how we learn. You brush it off and you figure out the way, and that's the same, journey we learn in the sweat lodges and in the medicine journeys of like, be okay with the messy. That's where we quest into, like, the courage comes with the perseverance, the doing it, the experience. Like, everybody wants courage like a magic pill these days. I wish we had it. Right. And it's like, you gotta, like, there's no elevator to getting there. We gotta do the work. We've gotta get okay with being okay with them not being perfect, being messy.
And that's it, right? You just get used to being uncomfortable, and then the uncomfortable isn't so much uncomfortable anymore. It's just like, okay, well, this is next. This has happened. Yeah. What do we need to do to work through it?
Yeah.
And it gets easier and easier that way. Mm-hmm. But it does take courage. It does take a certain level of courage, because it is messy. Be willing to be messy, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Give yourself permission to be messy, and give yourself permission to be okay with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I started learning first in the Toltec journeys that we used to do, is like, there is a container. You have a guide, you have a teacher, you have a mentor, you have somebody that's holding that space for you, that tells you, I've been through this. You're in the right trajectory, right? Where that roller coaster goes up, and then you go, holy shit, what did I sign up for again? Can I get my money back guarantee right about now? And I go, no, baby, this is where it happens. Like, keep going, jump further. This is where the mind is like, it does that flip, right? And this is where, like, I had to surrender. I had to trust and jump into the abyss, into the great mystery. And this is where, like, whoa, there is a landing pad. There is a feathered bed that catches you after 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever that journey is. Sometimes it's longer, but there is that feathered bed that you land on, and you trust that journey over and over again. That's the journey of fear, of holy smokes, of like, oh my God. And then like, oh no, I landed again. And it happened over time and over time and over time, again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we start to trust the journey, the
Mm-hmm.
messy journey. And then that's where, creativity comes through, clarity comes through, the aha comes through. It's that space of the chrysalis, right? Like before it gets all gooey and like it's uncomfortable. You're like, oh, I'm in a cluster F. Like, yeah, you trust that that's the formula. Like, and
absolutely,
and you reemerge.
It teaches the mind, and the mental body can kind of relax a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
and the heart teaches the mind along the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. It's all good. Just get messy, pick yourself up, and you'll be okay. If you think you can't do it, you can, because you're stronger than you think you are. Right.
And give yourself that grace period. Sometimes it takes more than one time. Sometimes we get up on that, roller coaster ride and we get off. And we start again. Like, give yourself that grace and permission to start over, and get up and do it again and again. And then you're like, oh, I can go a little further. And sure enough, we get there. And here we are.
Magic continues to unfold, which is absolutely, absolutely amazing. Marina, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, we will include links below in the podcast, letting you know how you can get a hold of Marina if you would like to reach out to her and have a chat, do some work. She's magic. She's absolutely magic. Thank you so much, love, for being here. It's been an honor and a blessing.
Thank you for this amazing opportunity. This was awesome.
Of course. It was so much fun.